Caterpillar Cross Stitch. I'm Erin.
And I'm Kristen.
We're one half of the Steel City Stitchers, and today we are here to talk to you about stitching on linen.
Yes, my favorite thing. If you enjoy what you see here today, please make sure to subscribe to Caterpillar Cross Stitch and make sure you give us a thumbs up on our video so that you can see more cross stitch related content. Let's get started.
Okay, to give you an idea of how linen stitching differs from aida is on aida, you're going to have 4 squares, just like this. And when you do your X, you're gonna go just like this. So pretty easy to make a cross stitch. On linen though, you're going to have a series of 9 holes that make up your total cross stitch square. So when you're stitching 2 over 2, and this is what it looks like, is 2 over 2. You're using 2 strands and you're starting in your bottom left corner and you're going through that middle and up to the top. And then you're going to complete your X this way. If you're doing 1 over 1, so let's say you still have your 9 hole square, but you're doing 1 over 2 with 1 strand, you would do 1 strand over those 2 threads just like this. If it's 1 over 1, all that means is that instead of going over the 2 and skipping that middle one, you're actually just going to use this square. So you're going to go like this. So essentially you could make 4 X's in one typical linen cross stitch square. So that's all 1 over 1 means. It's 1 strand and you just go into the middle. So 2 over 2, again with 2 threads over 2 holes. 1 over 2, same premise, just using 1 thread. This is good for like a 36 count linen or a 40 count linen or anything higher. The 1 over 1, you want to have a pretty large hold fabric. So maybe you do like an 18 count linen or a 28 count, 32 maybe. Just because your X's are going to be so much smaller. 2 over 2 is going to be good for your smaller count fabrics. And sometimes you even see people do it on a 36, but it's going to be pretty tight. But that should give you an idea before we demonstrate how this looks on fabric about what we're talking about when we mean 2 over 2, 1 over 2, or 1 over 1.
Okay, so I'm going to show you how to stitch 2 over 2 on linen. Now I'm a very new linen stitcher. I've only been doing this for a couple of months, and I would say it is just as easy as stitching on aida once you figure out the counts. So we talked about it a little bit, but if you'll look, your basic setup here, you're looking at a 9 square area. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 holes that I'm generally working with. So I'm going to come up through my first hole and I'm going to count 1, 2, 1, 2 to find where my first diagonal goes. Now I'm doing the loop method. So I come up behind my piece and I find the loop. I put my needle through it and I pull. Okay, so now coming back to the front, I'm going to count down 2 and do my second cross. So again, I count 1, 2, and find my cross. Now I've been told that as you get better with using linen, you don't do that 1, 2 anymore, but I'm still pretty new, so that is the way that I count. So count 1, 2, and again up here we go 1, 2. Okay, so those are my diagonals. To come back, I count down 1, 2, find my hole, that's off a little there. It's so much easier on the way back because you can already see where the X needs to go, so I don't actually have to count anymore. So now I'm going to come in here, finish my X, and you get the gist. So that is how I stitch. This is a 32 count even weave. So it's pretty, this is a great fabric to start with if you're just learning how to stitch on linen. I actually learned on an 18 count linen. And I think that that's the best way because it was giant. But that is how I stitch 2 over 2.
Okay, I'm going to show you how to do 1 over 1 stitching. So Erin already demonstrated how to do 2 over 2. So this is going to be 1 over 1. That means it's 1 strand of thread over 1 hole. So I'm just going to be using these 4 squares rather than using the full 9 hole square. And this is going to be on 32 count linen, so this is going to be pretty tiny, but it is going to make for a very different looking piece. So I'm going to do the pin stitch start. So come into the middle and then into my bottom left. And then you're going to want to hold a little bit of a tail. And I just like to hold it with my finger. And then I'm going to come back into this hole and then back into the bottom. So that's going to really secure that stitch. And then in order to really secure it, I go back into the top. So that's the pin stitch. And I just hold that there until I get a couple stitches in, and then I can go ahead and trim that off. So now I'm going to start my stitches. So I come into that bottom corner and into the top right. So it's just like stitching on Aida. A very, very tiny count Aida, but Aida nonetheless, because it's just those 4 holes and you're not skipping anything. So you're just going into the middle. So again, it's going to make the overall piece very, very small. Okay, and then to finish it off, now I'm just going to make my X's. So there's 1. And you could go ahead and, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and trim that pin stitch start. You could go ahead and trim that tail off so it doesn't get in your way. Got a little bit of a knot there. There we go. And let me just finish this one off for you. Okay, and as you can see, you have 4 very, very little tiny X's, and if you look at the whole piece as a whole, you can just see how tiny that truly is. But I enjoy 1 over 1 stitching for certain patterns. It's not for everything, but it's a great way to just make your overall piece a lot smaller and, you know, tinier.
Thanks again for watching, and please make sure that you like and subscribe below, and check out the description box because Sally has the sign up for her newsletter down there, and you can get 5 free patterns from her book, which is awesome.
That's awesome.
Thanks again for watching. Bye, friends.
See you later.